Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Todd Klindt's SharePoint Podcast, number 262, recorded live on Monday, September 28th, 2015. I am your host, but sadly, probably not this podcast's MVP, Todd Klindt. Before we go too much further, I have to thank the folks at Rackspace. They graciously send me paychecks every week. Can't say enough good things about the fact that they send me paychecks. They provide some of the equipment that I use for this. They provided the flags that are behind me, the PowerPoint template. Now, we actually have a new PowerPoint template, and I have not adopted it yet. I should do that. We just had a big branding meeting at work here a week or so ago, and I need to get that slide deck upgraded. But all this stuff is available because of Rackspace. So head on out to sharepoint.rackspace.com and see what SharePoint offerings we have at Rackspace. And also go out to www.rackspace.com/Microsoft and see what they got going on there for Microsoft stuff. Can't go wrong. While you're out there on the internet, hopefully you've already got your home pages set for this. I know I do. But go out to toddklindt.com/blog and twitter.com/Todd Klindt, all those places. Should have your set of home tabs in your browser. So when you open up Internet Explorer or Edge or whatever they're calling it these days, all that stuff should just pop up and you should be able to see what's going on. So we have all that out there. My OneDrive, there we go. All right. So all that's going on. Okay. On to production notes. Kind of the big news today in production notes. If you look over my left shoulder, you'll notice there is a flag. I have changed my flag. I've been at Rackspace/SharePoint 911 for, coming up on 6 years here in a week or so. But I did take down my Canadian flag that Joanne Klein, who's in the chat room now, thank you very much, Joanne. She gave me a Canadian flag at Ignite last year. That was May, or this year, May. And I've proudly hung it up here. Since then, it replaced the Australian flag that I got the last time I was in Australia. Proudly displayed that. It's folded up respectfully over on my table over here, but I had to put my Rackspace flag up. I was talking about some stuff with Rackers and put that up. So no disrespect to my Canadian friends. There's a bunch of them in the chat room now. They're threatening to take over. Brian Lallant saying if there was any more Canadians in the chat room, it would be considered a takeover. My immediate thought was, most polite takeover ever. I'm sorry, but we're gonna be in charge here. Is that okay? Is it, nobody's offended? Oh, thank you. Good. Just being taken over by Canadians just sounds delightful. I can't say enough good things about it. But that's kind of the big thing. Production notes got the podcast out pretty well last week. So that all went well. Hopefully looking to reproduce that magic this week and get it out early again this week. And that is it for production notes. Topics. We have got topics all over this week, and I should have done a better job organizing them, but we'll just take them in the way that they're in here right now. So the first thing that I want to talk about, and this came out a couple of days ago, is there is a new starter kit for the Raspberry Pi. Now, I don't know if you've seen the Raspberry Pi before. The Raspberry Pi is this little adorable thing here. It is a $35 computer. Now, these things came out a couple of years ago, and it's a computing platform. It's a little, you get the little PCB here. It's got all the things you need. You can run whatever you want on it. And it's got all the connections you'd want. Look at all those USB ports. That thing's got more USB ports than my laptop does. It's got an Ethernet port. It's got HDMI. It's got audio out. And it's got a bunch of edge connectors for display. And then it's got these general purpose IO or GPIO connectors here. And a camera connector. But this thing's $35. That's all this is. And you can put anything on it. A lot of people put a version of Linux on here. Raspbian is kind of the common one. But late last year, Microsoft said, you know what? We really like those Raspberry Pis. We're going to let you put Windows 10 on them. And this one indeed does have Windows 10 on it. They kind of started from scratch. The Raspberry Pi community has been very mature, and so they kind of fell behind. But this week, the folks at Adafruit, which is a place that sells pieces for the Raspberry Pi and the Arduinos and stuff like that, released a starter kit for Windows 10 on the Raspberry Pi. So this is kind of exciting. This might come as a shock to you guys, but this cool, suave individual that sits before you right now, or you're listening to right now, was not always the epitome of cool like I am now. I was kind of a nerd when I was growing up. When I was a kid, I was a little nerdy. Lord knows I've grown out of that, and I'm just very cool and masculine now. But when I was a kid, I went to Radio Shack and got like the 201 kits and all those crazy things. So this is the kind of stuff that I love. And when I saw this kit come out, I really liked it. So it comes with some boring stuff. This Raspberry Pi runs off of a micro SD card. It comes with one of those that's preloaded with Windows 10 Internet of Things edition on it. Comes with a case, which is kind of boring, a power supply, which is just a regular micro USB power supply, plugs in right there. 1 amp though, instead of the half amp, and a Wi-Fi adapter that plugs into the USB. That's boring. It comes with that. But then it comes with all manner of cool stuff. It comes with sensors, and I'm talking photo sensors and temperature sensors and humidity sensors. It comes with breadboards for you to build circuits on. It comes with LEDs and lions and tigers and all kinds of stuff. It's a really cool thing. And so it comes with this, and there's a bunch of projects already out on the internet. Microsoft's been great about updating those. I've been so excited about the Raspberry Pi. I did a thing that I never thought that I would do. I did a thing that I openly mock other people for doing. I joined Pinterest, and I went out to Pinterest and started a Raspberry Pi channel. And now I see all these Raspberry Pi projects that people are doing. And it's just great fun. And again, it kind of brings me back to that, when I was 8 and 10 years old. Now I've got little kids and I got snap circuits for them. So I've been having a lot of fun doing snap circuits with them. But this thing is kind of like going back to those days of buying those little hobbyist kits at Radio Shack. But anyway, the starter kit comes out for people who already have a Raspberry Pi like I do. The starter kit is $75 at Adafruit. If you don't have a Raspberry Pi, you can get the kit and the Raspberry Pi for like 115, something like that. The bad news is, from the very first moment that I saw this link, and it came out last week sometime, this is sold out. You can't buy any of these things. So they do have a you can sign up and they'll alert you when it's back in stock, but it's kind of sad, but that's out there. So a lot of the gentlemen in the chat room are surprised that I'm on Pinterest. So I can understand that. And it's been funny. So I've got some nieces that are on Pinterest. And so I'm on Pinterest and I'm following them. And then I immediately had to watch out because they're all, subscribing to dresses and all these dumb things like that. So Jen R. Jones in the chat room's talking about snap circuits. Snap circuits are cool, and this is way off the path of what we're talking about now. But snap circuits is this great thing. It's kind of the next generation of the stuff that I used when I was a kid. But all the little electronic components are on these plastic pieces that have snaps on the end. So when you build your circuit, you've got a little acrylic board, and you just put them in place, and you snap them in place, and the LEDs and the motors and the batteries and all that. It's a lot of fun, and my kids, my 7-year-old and my 5-year-old love it, and they build all kinds of fun stuff, and we get to talk about it, and there's sound sensors and light sensors and all that. Love the snap circuits, and I'm glad that other people do too. But anyway, if you've wanted to play with some of this internet is a thing that we all keep hearing about, you can't do any better than getting a Raspberry Pi. Check it out on Pinterest. There's great Raspberry Pi things on there, and get that starter kit if you want to get in there. The next thing that I wanted to talk about was kind of something that came up this afternoon. As you all know, as you followers of the podcast, I've got a Microsoft Band. I love my Microsoft Band. In the last couple of months, I've gotten more serious about running. I used to run in high school, been doing it a lot more lately. And this thing is a great little running tracker. It's got GPS, and so it chimes in every mile and tells me what my pace is. And then when I get back with my phone, it syncs up to Microsoft Health and gives me all my splits and shows me my map and all that kind of stuff. Really enjoying running with this. With this Microsoft Band. The battery, though, as we all know, are actually the two batteries, because they're batteries. The batteries are these big plump things here. Aren't great. So on days that I know that I'm going to run, before I go out and run about an hour ahead of time, I plug my band in to charge. And today I plugged it in, and things have been getting bad. My band hasn't been liking to charge. So you can charge either way, from the top or from the bottom. I've got the cord right here somewhere, hidden somewhere amongst all the other black cords on my desk. So you got your connector. You can come in. You can come in from the top, or you can come in from the bottom, either way. And it's got a little magnetic thing and it sinks it in place. But my band quit charging. It was getting tough. I'd have to wiggle it around. And then today, it just finally quit charging. So I was kind of bummed because we know that October 6th, Microsoft's going to be announcing some new hardware. We've seen some of the rumor sites that talk about the Band 2. And I'm like, man, if this thing is pooped out, I don't know what I'm going to do. Do I buy another one? Do I try to get it replaced? All this kind of stuff. So I was talking to some folks on the internet, and they were saying that they had similar devices. I understand other companies make devices like this, and they said that the contacts get kind of cruddy. So I looked on here, and I'm like, yeah, there's these 6 contacts. They look kind of dirty, so I scrubbed them, and still no dice. Couldn't do it. So I'm looking at this thing, and I'm like, I got these six bands here, pretty clean. Man, I just don't know what the problem is. And I happened to glance down and look at the charging thing itself, and it has 7 connectors. And I look back at my band and I only see 6 connectors. So one of the connectors on my band, which is on the inside of my wrist, next to my body, was so covered in gunk and sweat and whatever else they get covered in that I couldn't even tell it was there. So I got out a chisel and a hammer and cleaned it all off. And as soon as I did that, started charging like a champ. So I guess my story is twofold. And number one, we talked about this last week. You don't wear your band in the shower. But number two, if you've got one of these and you're having problems getting it cleaned or getting it charged or connected or whatever, clean all those things off. So I've had this for several months, and again, I've been running a lot lately, so it's been going through a lot. I don't blame it any. It hasn't fallen apart on me yet, which I understand is kind of a problem, but really liking it. Glad I got working, so I was able to go out for my run today. I know you're all very, very concerned about that, but again, had some other folks chiming in about what might have been the cause, so I thought I would share that with the rest of you. Something that, and I probably should do this. Heck, I'll do it now. Not that. So something that I haven't done in a while is talk about PowerShell. PowerShell used to have the PowerShell tip of the week, and then I kind of forgot about it. But I had a couple that I wanted to share, so I thought I would resurrect this. And so for the next couple of weeks, I'm going to have some just super easy PowerShell tips that it's one of those things I assume if I figured it out, everybody knows. But I will start with this. So the PowerShell tip this week is adding support for parameters to PS1 files. Not just functions, but just PS1 files. So, for anybody, their PowerShell progression is usually running a single command and doing something, and then chaining some things together, making very, complex one-liners and trying to keep it all in one line. But then once we start getting on multiple lines, things start getting confusing when we start writing these PS1 files. And PS1 files normally don't have a lot of structure, don't have a lot of error control, any of that kind of stuff. They kind of just run a series of one-liner commands, and if they error out, they just crash and all that. So then, the next step is kind of putting some error control or something in. But one of the things that I've been doing lately to my PS1 files is I've been adding support for parameters. And so now when I'm at my command prompt or I'm in the ISE or whatever, and I run a .ps1 file, so again, I'm not importing a module, I'm not writing a function, I'm not going to all that work. It's just a PS1 file. But if I put the param block at the beginning, optionally, the people that run my PS1 file can specify parameters. So for instance, I've got my create user script that I use to create a bunch of AD users to populate things for test environments. Because it's a crappily written script, it looks for a very specific file in the local directory, and I've got a bunch of different files for different users. So that was kind of the first thing that I did. You can just run the PS1 file like you always did. It will do the thing that it always did, but you can also -tab and add a file name in the PS1 file. Again, without all the overhead of writing a script and a module and all that kind of stuff, you can do that. So that's one of the things I've been talking to the folks that I work with. When I look at the PowerShell scripts and things like that, I'm like, oh, this is great. You're doing good stuff. Here's what you can think of to do next, and adding those parameters. And the way that you do it is you just add that parameter block at the beginning like you would with a function, and it's good stuff. So I plan on blogging this. Again, it's one of those super simple things. I'm embarrassed that it's taken me this long to figure it out, but it's really added another dimension to the PowerShell scripts that I've written without having to write these modules and things like that. So be looking for that blog post. And again, as you're writing these PS1 files, think about the different things that you have to, because we all now, for these PS1 files, we have a block at the beginning, the hard code encodes everything, locations or server names or site collection names or whatever. And then we just go in and edit that PS1 file, save it out and run it. Wouldn't it be cool if we could just pass a parameter on? So that's kind of what I've been doing. So, and the next couple of weeks, the tips that I have are tangentially related to that make it easier. But that's one thing. I've been a big fan of that. Okay, so this is something I wanted to talk about last week, and it's been all over the internet, but I kind of wanted to give it some time here on the show. SharePoint 2016 has been out for a little bit now. People are playing with it. I'm playing with it. Hopefully you're playing with it too. But with any new version of anything, there's new, things that get left behind and all that kind of stuff. And so Microsoft has a page on what's deprecated or removed from the SharePoint Server 2016 IT preview. And that's out on MSDN. There's a bunch of things in there, and it's, again, not a lot of new stuff, but I did kind of want to go over a few of these things. The other thing to keep in mind is this stuff's going to change. We're going to have more previews. SharePoint 2016 is not going to come out until next year, so Lord only knows what it's going to have when it comes out. More things will be deprecated and removed, all that. But for now, we've got it. So the first thing they list is Foundation. There is no longer a free version of SharePoint. I guess Microsoft assumes that SharePoint's so darn popular now, they don't need to give it away for free. They can give it, make people charge for it. But Foundation is no longer going to be there. So it's all going to be SharePoint Server. It's all going to have CALs. That's a particularly sad one for me because I got my start on the free version of SharePoint. So originally it was SharePoint Team Services, STS. And then for 2003 and 2007, it was WSS, Windows SharePoint Services. As a rule, as a person, I'm pretty frugal, pretty tight, and the free version was the one that resonated most for me. So I kind of feel a little bad that they took the free version away, but I understand it. It's something they don't have to do anymore, and just one less thing for them to test. But another thing they took away was the kitten killing mode, as I like to refer to it, and that is the much reviled single server install that they had before that would install the SQL Express instance that nobody knew how to manage and would create everything as one user. And it was just all over bad, all over. And they've taken that out. So hurrah, huzzah, whatever your form of exclamation is for that is gone. Now they've replaced it with something else called single server, but that isn't bad. If you do single server with SharePoint 2016, it is a single SharePoint server, but it is all just SharePoint. So you still have to install SQL, you still have to do everything right, but it just puts all of the SharePoint roles on a single box. So I'll let them have that. That's not a bad thing. They can keep that one. But the kitten killing mode that puts it in this weird mode where you got everything running with SQL Express and running as one account and everything on one web app, that's all gone. So that's a good thing. Glad to see that gone. One that they've taken away that I'm kind of torn on is they've taken FIM, Forefront Identity Manager, out of the user profile sync. And I think we've all cursed FIM, used its name in vain, said horrible things about it and its mother and the horse it rode in on, whatever that horse has done to us. But I'm kind of sad that it's been taken out. I kind of like the way SharePoint 2013 handled things, where you could do the old SharePoint 2007 version of syncing or the obnoxious FIM version, whichever way made the most sense for you, you had that option. In 2016, you don't have the FIM option anymore. The only option you have is to party like it's 2007 and use that import that's just pulling users in. Can't be customized. You can't write back to AD. It's super fast, though. It's really nice. But I kind of liked having the option. So they kind of met us halfway on that. And we have the support for external user management things like we've got already. So you can, if you need the power of FIM or MIM, which is FIM's new name, you can set that up externally and buy licensing and set it up on a machine. But it's not as easy to use as it was before. And that makes me a little sad. I like the option. One of the things they've taken out, deprecated or removed, is Excel services in SharePoint Server. And so now your option, if you have anything to do with Excel, it's Office Online Server 2016 or nothing, which is good because there was some confusion in previous versions of SharePoint on how to handle XLSX files. If you wanted to use them like Excel worksheets, you had to do one thing with them. If you wanted to do crazy BI stuff and all these things, then you had to do a different thing with them, and you couldn't do both. And so now that's all gone. That confusion is gone. I have good news. There is no more decisions to make. you can just use Office Online Server or nothing else. And so for BI scenarios, there's going to be some ramifications there, and I'm not sure what those are going to be. Travis in the chat room, who's dialing in all the way from Australia, which is literally as far away from here as you can be, as long as far away from me as you can be. He apparently did not get along with FIM very well. He posted some things in the chat room. This is a family show. I can't repeat them, but apparently Travis and FIM did not see eye to eye on a few things. So good for Travis. It's going to be gone. And the saddest note of all that I saw at the very bottom of this is that STS ADM is officially deprecated. Now, I thought it was officially deprecated in 2013, and it might have been. I've kind of forgotten, but I feel a little sad about this one. STS ADM was kind of how I got my start in SharePoint, and how I got like the first article I ever published in a magazine on SharePoint was on STS ADM. First book chapter was on STS ADM. STS ADM was really good to me, and I'm kind of sad to see it go. PowerShell, I love PowerShell. Can't say enough good things about PowerShell, but STS ADM will always hold a little special part in my heart right here. Got kind of sniffly when I see that getting taken away, but that one's going away too. So read that document. It's a good, so Jen R. Jones in the chat room, it hasn't been taken out. It's still there. It's just been deprecated. So deprecated means it could disappear at any moment. We don't know, but it's still there for backwards compatibility. But it's you have to find something. So Jen R. Jones in the chat room also mentions there were still some little things in 2013 even that you could only do with STS ADM. Yes, there were, though that list is getting shorter and shorter and shorter. And so I think there was one that I used all the time, like local upgrade status or something like that. That's one. So Travis asks about the people picker commands. The people picker commands you can do in PowerShell. I believe you can write those in as web app properties, and you can set those that way. I'd have to look on that, but there's so there are so I guess one of the things is you hear about STS ADM being deprecated. All these people in the chat room have these things, like Louis Minetti saying, I do this thing with people picker. Start figuring out what those things are and start seeing if there is a way to do that in PowerShell, because there's probably some things that we've had as a crutch that we've been doing it with STS ADM because that's how we did it 10 years ago. Literally 10 years ago, and it's just always worked, and so we've stuck with it. But now's a good time to start thinking about that, because at any point STS ADM could go away. So the news is not all bad, though. So we've got a bunch of things that they took away, but we also have another document about features that are new and improved in SharePoint 2016. This always brings me to that bit. I can't remember who did it, about whether something can be new and improved. Because if it's improved, it's the same thing, but if it's new, then it can't. Anyway, so there's a bunch of things that have been new features that are new and improved in SharePoint 2016. I don't want to talk about all of them, but there's a few of them that I like. One of them is the fast site collection creation. One of the things that they've changed in SharePoint 2016 is they don't build site collections based on a series of commands anymore. Create this, create that. They build them by creating copies of a template of a site collection, and it's much faster that way. So that's been good. One of the things that they've done is expanded the number of characters you can have in file names, which is nice because there was some difference in the number in the characters you could have as like a file system file name, SharePoint Online or SharePoint On-Prem all had different restrictions on special characters. So you can conceivably have a file in one that you couldn't take to the others. That kind of got ugly. So they've been working towards parity on that, and 2016 takes them a step farther on that. And then the other one is the large file support. We're no longer restricted to the 2 gig files. And I think I've talked about that on the show a little bit. And I know everybody who listens to the show and is listening to this one now has listened to all the previous ones before and wouldn't miss a minute of any of this. So I don't need to go over all of it, but we used to be limited at 2 gig per upload or per group of uploads. And now that's essentially unlimited. I think now they tell you to limit it to 10 gig or something like that. So that's good news, I guess. If you want to store like, DVD ISOs or whatever in SharePoint, that's a good deal. One thing I would tell you about is the SharePoint upgrade limitation or upload limitation. and some of the things behind it were only one piece of why big files don't work very well in SharePoint. So before you open that up, and nobody's running SharePoint 2016 in production yet, so it's not a big deal, but before you open that up to the masses, start playing with that and play with it from the internet and from mobile devices and things like that, because there are all kinds of timeouts and network issues and things like that will start coming into play when you start uploading large files. So make sure you test that before you get too far into that, because that could cause some other problems. Again, and in the name of tonight there being on a football game on that I want to watch, we're gonna wrap this one up kind of quick. So the last and final, and I'm sure everybody's favorite part of the podcast, the shameless self-promotion, is getting shorter, though we do have a new edition this week. But first, I want to talk about Dev Intersections. That is next month. That is a month from now. Holy crap. You can go to devintersection.com and find out about that. That's in Las Vegas, Nevada at the MGM Grand. I'll be doing a couple sessions there. I forget what they are, but I'm sure they will be amazing if my previous performance is any indication. That's October 26th through 29th. I'll be doing some sessions out there, probably some stuff on Azure AD and getting that synced up and some other things. But Lori mentioned all the cool kids were going, which I think is funny because as far as I know, Lori is not going. And then Beth in the chat room, BearGal34, she's not going to be there either. So I'll tell the cool kids hi for you, I guess is what I can do. If you have any messages you want me to pass on to the cool kids, any notes, anything like that, dear cool kids, do you think I'm cool too? Yes or no? Any of that kind of stuff, just let me know. We got a month to get that all sorted out. But I will be at there at Dev Intersection. So make sure that you, if you're at that conference, stop by, see my sessions, of course, rate them highly, but definitely go by and introduce yourself. Tell me, hey, happens everywhere. I have, conferences I go to, I always meet new people, always people, listen to the podcast or read my blog or whatever. I'm a super easy to talk to guy. I'm super approachable, would love to talk to you. So by all means, if you see me, jump on up there and say, hey. So the new edition, and it might be a little early to be talking about this, so I will talk in vague, unspecific terms, but there's going to be an SP TechCon in Austin, Texas in February. February 21st through the 24th in Austin, Texas. Going to be one of them there, SP TechCons. I don't know, if they're publicly saying who is going to be there, who is not going to be there. I know that I've been at all of the SP TechCons, and Austin's right up the road from San Antonio, where the head office is at. So I will probably be somewhere in the SP TechCon vicinity, if not exactly on SP TechCon, February 21st through the 24th. So go ahead and sign up for that. You can go to sptechcon.com and sign up for that. And I think there's going to be some great sessions there. I can't say for sure, but I think there will be. And another funny thing, so for whatever reason, I was browsing the SP TechCon site today, and they've got some videos up from the SP TechCon that was just in Boston. And so I can't remember what I was doing. I was like, it was right before one of my sessions, and I was going to get some coffee, and my session was right after lunch, something like that. And so I've got my stuff set up, and I put one of the attendees in the room in charge of guarding my laptop and all that kind of stuff. And I dashed off to get some coffee. And the only place I could get coffee was like the dining room or something. I don't remember what it was. So I ran in there to get some, and I'm like, I'm in a terrible hurry, and people want to talk to me. And I'm like, I can't talk. I got to go back to my session. And as I'm coming out, like the official SP TechCon videographer guy is there, and he's got his camera and he's got his light and he's got a microphone. He's like, do you have a couple of minutes to talk on camera? And I'm like, absolutely. I got nothing but time for you and your camera and your microphone and your video and audio recording devices. Absolutely. Get comfortable. And so he's asking questions, what do you like best about SP TechCon and all that kind of stuff. So if you go out to SP TechCon and scroll up on the right-hand side, they've got a video from the Boston TechCon that was just a month or so ago, and I do happen to make it in the final cut, so that was fun. But I'm all throwing elbows and knocking the little old ladies over, and then the guy at the microphone's like, "Sir, do you have a minute?" And I'm like, "Of course, for you, sir. Always have a minute." But SP TechCon's coming up. It should be fun. Those guys put on a good show. Next year, it's going to be the beginning of 2016. Never know what we're gonna have to talk about. So check that out. So that's it, folks. It is halftime, and so I will be able to go upstairs, pop some popcorn, do whatever, get my my Chiefs, costume on, my helmet, and all that kind of stuff, and watch the game. So I will keep the chat room open for those of you that are in the chat room. We can chat back and forth. You can tell me how much you love the Chiefs and how much you don't like the Packers. That kind of conversation is always welcome in the chat room. So by all means, talk about that. But I will see you guys next week. I think we're on the same schedule. I got some other travel coming up that I got to plan around, but I think next week is good. So as always, if you've got things you want to chat about, hit me up at Todd Klindt on Twitter. Email me, todd.klindt@rackspace.com, any of that kind of stuff, and we'll chat about it. But thanks again for your time, and I'll see you next week.